Today I spent the day with Lana Turner movies. I have three more to watch from this week, but I have to go see a movie with a friend, so I had to postpone those three for a couple of days. And then next week there's 12 more. So by the time this month is over, I think I'll have seen 44 Lana Turner movies. Not all this month. Like I'd seen about 12, I think, before, or 15. I don't know. I'd seen a handful before, and then now I'm just like mainlining Lana Turner movies. I think she is such an underrated actress. She's so much fun to watch. She's so good at comedy. She's good at drama. She's good at melodrama. She's good at everything. She can sass back with the best of them. She didn't get to be a sassy person in enough movies, but I'll get to that because she was very sassy in one of the four I watched today. The first one I watched was 1944's Marriage is a Private Affair, and it's about a woman who gets into a wartime marriage. She's obviously, this is Lana Turner, with John Hodiak. I do quite love John Hodiak. After they've only known each other for like 3 days, and eventually she decides to do it. She has this weird issue with, not weird, but she has this issue with commitment because her mother has been married like 8 times and she doesn't quite believe in marriage, and she's not really sure how she feels about the John Hodiak character. But they go through all the steps. They get married. They have their honeymoon. He can't go off to the war because his father was in manufacturing, and then when he died, he has to take over the factory so that the army can have whatever it is they manufacture. And they have a baby and all kinds of things, but then they almost get divorced because they got married way too fast and they didn't really know each other. But also, she was 19, so she didn't really have time to grow up. And the film is really, I guess, kind of propaganda towards like giving marriage a chance, but also a nice look at why you should maybe know your partner before you marry them. And there's multiple marriages that are awful in this film. So as much as it's like, yay, marriage, it's also like, yay, marriage if you really know what you're doing. Otherwise, y'all are fucking up. So I quite enjoyed it. It's based on a novel by Judith Kelly. It's probably not in print because most of these wonderful novels by women about women from the mid-century are no longer in print. It's unfortunate. The next film I watched was 1945's Weekend at the Waldorf. This was a remake of Grand Hotel, and actually last year I read Vicky Baum's novel Grand Hotel, and if you can track it down, I highly recommend the novel. It's great. I don't think Weekend at the Waldorf was quite as good as Grand Hotel, mostly because Grand Hotel is really swift and it just keeps going and going and going, and you there's never a dull moment, whereas this got a little creaky for some of the subplots. This was directed by Robert D. Leonard and actually did take place inside the Waldorf Astoria. The Waldorf actually wanted it to be shot in color, and MGM was like, "Nah, we'll go film in San Francisco if you're gonna make us, shoot you in color." And they were like, "No, no, no, stay." And so they filmed it. It's an hour and it's 2 hours and 10 minutes, and it is bloated. And most of the storylines don't hold up. There's some kind of racist shit with Xavier Cugat, which I'm sure he wouldn't have wanted to do, but like also, get your 15 minutes. So basically, if you're familiar with Grand Hotel, Ginger Rogers plays the Garbo character, except in this case she is an actress. Oh my god, that was hard. Walter Pidgeon plays the Barrymore character, except that in this case, he's also a war correspondent. Van Johnson plays a captain who, I'm not sure who his version in Grand Hotel was, but he plays a captain who thinks he's about to die, and so he's staying one last weekend at the Waldorf, and then he's getting his will in order. He meets Lana Turner, who's the Joan Crawford, and but she's a stenographer slash notary public, and she's notarizing his will. But then also obviously falls in love with him. Then you have Edward Arnold and Keenan Wynn and Robert Benchley and Leon Ames, and honestly, the star power isn't really there the way it was in Grand Hotel, and I think that's part of why you have 2 hours and 10 minutes, and it's mostly people you don't care about. Like when Lana Turner's not on the screen, I was bored, and even Ginger wasn't very good. They didn't really. I think they were trying to have her have the mystique of Garbo, but like Ginger Rogers does not have the mystique of Garbo, and it didn't work. Instead, she just seemed like she was boring to watch rather than bored. Whereas Garbo was bored and tired, but you can't take your eyes off her because she sparkled. Keenan Wynn is good in the handful of moments that he got. So I would stick with Grand Hotel unless you're a fan of these stars, because this pales in comparison. The next one I really loved. This is 1947's Cass Timberlane. It's directed by George Sidney and co-stars Spencer Tracy and my love Zachary Scott. And it had the cutest cat ever. I don't know the cat actor's name, but the character's name was Cleopatra, Cleo, the cat, and she was so good. And she shows up like Spencer Tracy's half of his screen time is with talking to this cat. So obviously I loved this movie because it gave a lot of screen time to a cat. But also, Lana Turner is just so good in this. And it's based on Sinclair Lewis novel called Cass Timberlane, A Novel of Husbands and Wives, one of Lewis's last novels. And if you are familiar with Lewis, he really wrote quite a few of his novels about the hypocrisy of the Midwest. And this is another film that really both digs at the hypocrisy of the Midwest as well as the hypocrisy and siren call of New York. And really everyone's terrible in his novels and in the adaptations of his novels. And I wonder if they made a version of Main Street. I would love to see a good film version of Main Street. Anyways, Zachary Scott is a lawyer. Spencer Tracy is a judge. Lana Turner is a witness in a case going before Spencer Tracy. He falls in love with her after she draws a very funny caricature of him. And he hasn't been married in almost 20 years since his wife died. And now they have joy, but then, tragedy strikes and she has trouble getting over this tragedy. And she becomes friends with Zachary Scott, but he's Zachary Scott, so he's a cad. Although he's not the most caddish he's ever been in this, although he is still a cad. And it's just a great film. I really enjoy it. I enjoyed it a lot, and the cat is fantastic. And if you love cats and love Lana Turner, this is a great film for you. The last film I watched today was Mervyn LeRoy's Homecoming. This was another Gable and Turner film. I believe this was their third film together. It's another war film. Frankly, there was not enough Lana Turner in it and too much Clark Gable for co-starring. And it really wasted Anne Baxter, which is like, you have Anne Baxter and you're just not giving her any screen time, and also you give her a really boring ass character. Clark Gable plays a doctor named Ulysses Johnson. Yes, that's his real name. And he's a bit of an idiot and a jerk and signs up for the war not because it's the good thing, or not because he feels like he needs to add his skills to the war effort, but because he feels like that's, his duty because he has these skills. And he meets Lana Turner, whose husband had died 6 years earlier in China, having fought the war even before U.S. was in the war, and she is a lieutenant and a nurse, and she's just like, your worldview is skewed, man. Like, if more people had fought the war before it was their problem, it wouldn't have been their problem, and she, schools him. John Hodiak is a doctor who accuses Clark Gable's doctor of being too cold, and Anne Baxter plays Clark Gable's nagging wife who doesn't understand him and gets jealous of his relationship with Lana Turner. And then when he returns, it's finally her turn and she can be a better wife, and it's that whole part of the film is awful. But Lana Turner is sassy McSasserson in this. She just sasses left and right. She is in control. She is such a wonderful, autonomous woman, and she deserves better than to be stuck in this ridiculous romance with this shitty doctor who it takes her death for him to really, and her nobility and then her death for him to really become a good person. I'm so sick of that. But this is 1948, so what are you gonna do? So I enjoyed all of these films. I have, like I said, so many more Lana Turner movies to watch before I'm done. And it's been a great month of watching her films. She is so good. And it's the more of her films you watch, the more you're like, she got her only Oscar nomination for Peyton Place. by the way, she got a Best Actress nomination for that, and she's totally the supporting role when the two girls that were supporting were actually the leads, and it's one of those like, what the fuck? Whereas she's so good in some of these other movies that you're like, what were you thinking, Hollywood? And if the only Lana Turner you've seen is her later films, please go back and watch her 30s and 40s films. She is so much better than you probably think she is. Um, yes. So, 4 films, Lana Turner, Star of the Month. They're all on TCM. They're all from MGM, so they're all in Warner Archive Collection on DVD. Please check them out. She's the greatest.